Hello everyone and welcome back to Eden's Garden. We have cast doubt on the suspicion that Diana is actually the one that killed Wolfgang, something I've been confident in this whole trial. And it seems like she watched Wolfgang die. So, let's uncover exactly what happened. Diana watched Wolfgang die?
It's okay, sweetheart. Come on now, take deep breaths.
Yeah, we'll believe you no matter what you say.
It's looking like Diana might actually be innocent. It's looking like that, but the nagging feeling in my chest still hasn't gone away. Damn it, what am I doing? Because of one girl, I've been doubting myself, jumping from one argument to another. If I can't piece together my own thoughts, how can I possibly piece together this case? I need to get a grip on myself. I need to keep a sight of myself and the goal of this killer. Whatever is thrown at me next, I need to persevere. Because if I don't, if everyone else here votes wrong, I won't leave this place alive.
Has all this murder hubbub left your head in a tizzy? Perhaps you need a short break. Something to lighten the mood and let you collect yourself.
Oh, well, there's an intermission. It seems like there's an intermission that I could have just waited until I got to last episode. Whoops, I was literally a screen away.
Something like a nice cup of tea. Welcome, one and all, to the first episode of Tozu's Tea Time. If you haven't already, please sit back and relax. Here, we do not use our brains, but deal only in gossip. Now, a question from me to you. What are sheep good at, if anything? Most humans, and some sheep, tend to respond with a resounding, absolutely nothing. Sheep cannot create art or invent medicine. For goodness sake, they can't even perform music! Their limited speech and quadrupedal locomotion prevents them from reaching the heights of humans. They're practically glued to the lower echelons of the food chain. No matter how hard sheep may try, they will never be anything more than their number tags. I can't say I like that answer. Too pessimistic for me. Plus, what of the sheep who still try? The sheep who realize their fate but continue to challenge it all the same. That they can be so determined to prove their worth when humans have all but deemed them microwavable meals. Isn't that something admirable? What a shame our sheep had to be so misguided. It seems that's about all the time we have. Thank you again for attending Tozu's Tea Time. No need for extravagant farewells. I've an inkling you'll be back for tea sooner than you can say Jack Robinson. Who's Jack Robinson? I have no idea. Ta-ta!
Thanks, Tozu.
Diana, now's your chance to defend yourself. Tell me what happened.
Where do I even start, though?
How about you begin by explaining why you went to the boiler room?
Why I went there? It was 'cause of a note.
A note?
2 days ago, someone slid one into my room. I never got to see who. I just heard a knock. And when I walked over, there was a note under my door.
I don't remember any of this.
Sorry. It was midday-ish, and you weren't there at the time. And I didn't show you the note later because, well, I'll just read you what it said.
Diana, as you are aware, it is our obligation to speak with those whose blackmail we have obtained. After receiving your blackmail and reading the information disclosed in it, I believe a meeting between the two of us is warranted. In 2 days' time, please come to the underground boiler room at 8:45 a.m. Make sure to arrive promptly and close the door behind you. To avoid discourse, do not show anyone this letter. Do not approach me about it either, even in private. There's always a chance someone can hear. Wolfgang.
Wolfie wrote this?
8:45.
Wolfgang had Diana's blackmail? But didn't he have Jean's?
Hold on a sec. If you take a closer look, the handwriting on that note, doesn't it resemble the handwriting on Wolfgang's note?
You're actually right. Even though Wolfgang's note has been water damaged, the words I can make out were in the same messy scroll as Diana's here.
Ooh.
Then someone else was posing as Wolfgang?
The killer, most likely. They must have thought his word was the only one Diana would follow.
Oh, this is Huh.
Guess it worked, huh?
I didn't want to show this note earlier because I was scared of how people would try to twist it. Like saying I faked the note or that I decided to kill because of it. I thought it would be better to just stay quiet. I know you guys think I'm stupid for agreeing to meet in a place like the boiler room. And I am. I am stupid. I just didn't want to disappoint Wolfgang in case he really did write the note, which was why I left my room around 8:40 a.m. and went downstairs.
Did you catch any strange movement down there?
No, it was just me. I did find the boiler room door hanging open a little bit, but I didn't think much of it. I just went inside and closed the door behind me, since that's what the note asked me to do.
What did you see inside the boiler room?
The boiler room was really dark. So the first thing I noticed was actually the security camera light. My eyes had to take a few seconds to adjust to everything else. But after that, I finally saw him. Wolfgang was lying in the water, making these weird noises. It didn't seem like he'd even noticed me entering the room. Not until... Wolfgang? Hearing his name seemed to snap him out of his trance, because he slowly rose to his feet. Wolfgang, are you okay?
It's you.
Huh?
I can't believe it. I really am finally meeting you.
Huh.
What do you mean?
Please, forgive me. Please forgive me for what I've become.
Wolfgang?
Despite how hard I tried, and how much I wanted it to be true, I could never become you.
Oh jeez, what is going on?
I will always be a failure.
It's okay, Wolfgang. Look, there's stairs over here. Come over here and we can get out. I have no idea if he didn't hear me, or if he was just ignoring me, but okay. I'll get closer to you then. I went over to the ledge of the platform, the part where the fence had a gap. Just take my hand, okay? And I'll pull you out. He slowly stumbled over, and he held my hand. I didn't really think I could pull him out. I just wanted to be there for him. It was the best I could do, because I didn't want to enter the water. Staying on the platform felt so much safer, and I really, really hate that it did. It's okay, Wolfgang. We'll get through this together, all right? I was looking at him when I said that. I was looking right at him. But somehow I didn't think to react.
Oh, Wolfgang attacked her first.
When he reached inside his blazer.
Bring her back. Bring her back!
Oh shit! Holy shit!
I tried to leave the room, but the door was locked. I didn't know what to do. I started looking around for things to defend myself with, and that's when I saw the gun.
The taser gun? Did you use it?
I took the taser, and I aimed it at Wolfgang, and I couldn't couldn't do it. I couldn't shoot him. I just backed away from him. I couldn't understand anything. Why was this happening to me? Why was I being attacked? Why can't I do anything to...
I'm not like you. I'll never be like you. I won't give up until the world knows. I won't give up until everyone knows me as...
All of a sudden, everything turned white.
Oh,
Everything
shit.
in front of me. Except Wolfgang. In those few seconds, he became pitch black. And then, so did everything else. Even though I didn't see Wolfgang fall over, I heard it. His body cracking against the pavement, and his knife falling into the water. I waited for the gasp of pain, for him to groan or mumble or say something. But there was nothing.
Jesus.
There was just me and the silence. That's how it happened.
What the fuck?
That man attacked you?
Oh my goodness, Diana, I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Whatever Wolfgang's problem was, he dragged Diana into it, and she probably would have died.
This is getting too much for me, bros. I think I'm gonna faint. Holy shit. So Diana really did watch Wolfgang die.
But why was he so violent towards her? It's like he became an entirely different person.
The word you're looking for is crazy.
Despite how hard I tried, how much I wanted to be true, I could never become you. Why did Wolfgang say these words in that particular moment?
How'd you manage to escape the boiler room after all that?
By picking the door's lock.
For reals?
I wasn't even thinking. I just started feeling my way back to the door in the dark. And then, well, my supply bag. I remembered the spare hairpins I always kept inside. So I felt around the bag and dug one out. To be honest, I have no idea how I managed to unlock the door. The whole thing was repeated trial and error. Just minutes of me telling myself that somehow this next attempt will finally work.
Whoa! Actually unlocking the doors. That's like hitting a bullseye blindfolded.
Now we know why it took so long for her to escape.
I realized why it happened. Getting trapped inside, I mean. The door's lock was on the outside. So, someone must have set the lock before I came downstairs. So that when I closed the door, I'd be trapped.
The lock is normally on the inside too. The killer purposely flipped it, then left the door open so you would be the one to close it.
Who the hell could the killer possibly be? If it's not Diana.
As for why the killer locked the door to begin with.
It was to frame Diana, right?
Right. The killer made Diana trap herself inside the boiler room, so they could kill Wolfgang in front of her, and force her to remain by his body. Had their plan worked, Diana would only be able to escape if someone from outside entered the boiler room, by which point, that someone would be stumbling across what looks like a cut-and-dry murder case.
If the tournament folk found Diana, they would have been playing right into the killer's hands.
Speaking of which, Diana, I'm curious to know, did you unlock the door before or after the tournament attendees arrived downstairs?
It sort of happened at the same time. Like, when I opened the door, there were already people walking down the stairs. Obviously, I couldn't stay inside the boiler room. If anyone saw me close to Wolfgang's body, it would look really bad. The hallway was a bit easier to make out in the dark. So I walked over to a wall bordering one of the storage closets and hid behind it. And stayed as quiet as possible. I was still bleeding a little from Wolfgang's cut, though. And some of that blood ended up dripping onto the floor around me.
Okay, so yeah, that's where the blood is from.
It's the blood on the underground floor! It's all coming together!
This was shortly before us tournament goers split up. And you made a run for it, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Down the hallway, up the stairs, and then as quietly as possible into my room. Since everything was still really dark, I had to patch myself using the Tozu Trinket's projection as my light.
Who could it possibly be?
I realize this is a lot, and I know it's hard to believe without proof. So, if you guys could just give me a second.
Reaching into her makeup bag, Diana pulled out a wipe and began scrubbing at her arm.
I cleared up the blood pretty fast. Luckily for me, the cut wasn't that deep. There's still a chance it may leave a scar, though.
Holy shit.
Holy crap!
That's awful!
It's okay. I'll cover it back up again.
Why did Wolfgang attack you for no reason?
I wouldn't say it was for no reason.
You're being kind of insensitive, man.
Huh? I didn't mean it like that. What I'm trying to say is, Wolfgang's actions may look random from an outsider's perspective, but from his perspective, well, judging by his behavior, it seems like he saw something which shook him to his core.
Like, there was something in the room that Diana didn't see?
That's impossible! It was only me and Wolfgang in the boiler room!
I don't believe John meant it in a literal sense.
Wolfgang literally saw something?
He thought he saw something, is my point.
You mean he had been hallucinating?
What did Wolfgang hallucinate for him to turn out the way Diana described?
You'd be surprised by the sort of things our minds can invent. I'm lucky to have never experienced anything myself, but I know some who have hallucinated nasty things. Demons and monsters, or the feeling of being tortured. If Wolfgang went through something similar, I can see why he lashed out.
Now what the heck is going on at sea?
Of course, these hallucinations don't just happen out of the blue. More often than not, they're substance-induced.
Substance-induced?
Just say Wolfgang took a hallucinogenic.
Hallucinogenics?
One which induced a lot of fatigue, too, judging by the way he lumbered about in Diana's account.
It would explain why Wolfgang mostly stayed in one place.
One place, which happened to be in the water.
Seems very deliberate. Aye. I reckon the killer knocked Wolfgang unconscious in order to drag him into the water, but knew he would eventually wake up again. So they drugged him with something which would basically make him despondent. As for where the drug came from...
Oh no! Don't tell me the killer robbed...
I knew exploring it was a bad idea.
It? What's this it we're talking about?
The pharmacy, obviously. Why the heck did we think leaving that place open was a good idea? Now someone's stolen an item and drugged Wolfgang. Fuck! I knew our promise was too good to be true! I can't trust any of you guys! And don't say Wolfgang drugged himself! Who wants to be tortured by demons?
Well, stranger people do exist.
That's rich coming from you!
It's just like I predicted. Exploring the pharmacy ended up paving the way for murder. Should I have made more of an attempt to stop people from exploring? Back then, all I did was... cautious... Everyone has to access the medication until like disaster in the making, but having anyone ire, I'll just stay quiet, let them do their thing. And again, nobody would listen to me, especially not with Wolfgang in control.
If we know where the perpetrator got their chemicals, I guess our next step is figuring out how they did the drugging.
Agreed. It would help us better understand the timeline of events, and potentially even validate Diana's testimony.
Ooh, this is...
Sounds like you guys can leave this one to me. I'm the kind of person who knows someone back to front the moment I meet them. If you haven't already realized,
You're the last person I trust to reach a correct conclusion.
Just you wait! The second you hear what I gotta say, you'll be eating those words!
Sorry, Jen, I accidentally skipped your dialogue. And how Wolfgang was judged to be valid in his testimony. The question is, how did the killer drug him? How did the killer drug him? Oh, the odd smell. Oh shit, I forgot about that.
I bet the killer took a pill. Forced Wolfgang to swallow it.
Just jab him at that point.
How would the killer make him swallow a pill? There was no proof they restrained him.
Didn't the killer knock Wolfie out? Maybe that was their way of restraining him.
You can't force an unconscious person to swallow a pill.
What if it was a drug you don't need to eat?
Like an inhalable substance?
Yep, that'll.
Yeah, like a powder or something.
The pharmacy does have a large collection of over-the-counter sedatives, but there's too many for us to isolate any specific one.
How does the drug Wolfgang? Out of all the people who are only one is any real parent.
I bet the killer took a pill.
This is a disagreed point.
Make him swallow a pill. There was no proof they restrained him. Did the killer not look there? Maybe that was their way of restraining him. You can't
Force an
unconscious person to swallow a pill. What if it was a
drug you don't need to eat?
Like an inhalable substance?
Oh, yeah.
If Wolfgang inhaled...
I bet the killer took a pill. Forced Wolfgang to swallow it.
Okay, so we've got hot smell, cereal and alcohol, shrapnel, metal. Yeah, this is what she used. Huh. Oh, right. Yeah, the jab.
Just jab him at that. I got it.
When Wolfgang's wounds were discussed earlier, it was mentioned he had a tiny red dot below the bruise on his neck. During the investigation, I thought this dot was a scab from a mole or pimple. Knowing Wolfgang was drugged, it's clear to see what it really is. A puncture wound.
Considering the timeline of events, an injection would check out if Wolfgang got drugged a little after 8:15 a.m. and was already feeling the effects when Diana arrived at 8:45 a.m. Then we're dealing with something which entered his bloodstream in under 30 minutes. Any normal pill would have taken, probably an hour to dissolve.
Whilst an injection would be much quicker. I see.
That's probably another reason why the killer knocked Wolfgang unconscious. It would have been incredibly difficult to inject him if he was still moving around.
Who could have possibly
Only when
done
they
this?
had him right where they wanted. Dazed and unable to fight back, did they plunge the syringe into his neck.
With said syringe being filled with a hallucinogenic.
But if this all happened a few minutes after 8:15 a.m., doesn't that make it impossible to pin a suspect?
What? Why is it impossible?
Because everybody's got an alibi for that time. I mean, Damien and I were in my dorm room, and the other party people...
8:15 a.m. Yeah, I was already in the dining hall with Jet, Mark, and Eva.
I left Wolfgang's dorm right after the morning announcement and spent the rest of the hour with Jean.
When Nona and I were in our dorm room together.
And me and Eloise were already sitting down in the courtyard.
Toshiko was giving me the medication she grabbed from the pharmacy.
And, I stayed in my dorm room until 8:40 a.m.
Oh no. If everyone can be accounted for, we really can't assign a suspect.
So, we're back to square one?
Someone here must be lying.
And doesn't plan to stop.
Let's run this over here. Is there a part of this mystery we're getting wrong? Could it be we're overlooking something? It's ruled out as having no relation to the murder because the wires didn't touch the water. The position of it, the fact it's destroyed, the timing of the blackout. One can easily wave off when it's coincidence or coincidence of coincidence. There's something more going on. There's something more to the generator.
If everyone has an alibi for 8:15 a.m., is it possible the killer never actually attacked Wolfie at that time? But his little note said to come by at 8:15 a.m., didn't it?
Ingrid, do you remember what you said when we couldn't figure out who stole Desmond's taser?
To be honest, I'm drawing a blank.
You suggested we switch subjects and discuss Wolfgang's injuries instead, which we did. As a result, we ended up unraveling more about the case than if we had stuck to the original topic. Right now, we're at a dead end. If we can't get any more leads out of this current discussion, then that's a sign to switch our focus.
Switch our focus to what?
I want to take another look at Diana's testimony.
Mine?
Back when you were describing Wolfgang's death, something stuck out to me.
I won't give up until everyone knows me as Will. All of a sudden everything turned white. Everything in front of me except Wolfgang. In those few seconds he became pitch black. And then so did everything else. Plop, crack.
The flash of white Diana described must have been the generator exploding, with the darkness afterwards being the blackout. Think about the order of events there. In just a few seconds, the boiler room's generator explodes, and Wolfgang falls over dead. Doesn't it sound like the two are correlated?
Oi, didn't we go over this already? We did. The generator has nothing to do with Wolfgang's death. Its wires weren't touching the water.
Indeed. Which is why the murder weapon is the taser gun.
Diana said she never used the taser, though.
Then she's lying!
What? That's not true! I never fired the gun!
It's all good. I believe you. Sure, nobody can dispute the gun was fired. What can be disputed, though, is when it got fired. I wouldn't be surprised if the killer fired that gun way in advance. Like, sometime before Wolfgang arrived downstairs and left it in the boiler room for us to find later.
What? So the taser gun isn't the murder weapon?
If Wolfgang wasn't killed with the taser gun or the generator, what other options are we left with?
The taser gun is the only option which makes sense. The murder weapon can't be anything else.
Truth murder weapon. Also, there's a third source of electricity I haven't considered yet. Am I grasping at straws?
And anyway, the only proof Diana never shot the taser is her own word.
Huh?
Ava! What do you mean?
All the evidence supporting your version of events is circumstantial. The note you showed us? That could be a fake alibi you made for yourself. The fact that it has the same handwriting as Wolfgang's is already suspicious.
Couldn't that just mean the same person tricked them?
If you earnestly believe Diana didn't write it, then maybe. But do you see what I'm saying? There's no proof Diana never wrote the notes. There's only her word to go by. Because if she did write them, everything about her entering the boiler room at 8:45 a.m. and being locked inside could be a total lie.
I get what you're saying. But if we run with the idea that Diana was the one waiting for Wolfgang all the way back at 8:15 a.m., then we're stuck with the issue we had last time. Why did Diana wait over an hour to kill him?
That's also circumstantial. None of us know what really went on between those two in an hour. Ruling someone out because they took a long time to murder is stupid.
Without context? Sure, I'd say the same. But since the boiler room is unlocked, anyone can enter. If Diana knocked Wolfgang out, then she took over an hour to kill him with that info in mind.
Okay, but who would enter? No one wants to make a detour down some gross, freaky-looking basement. The boiler room is probably the most covert place a person can be.
Oh, no. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Most covert place. The words do make sense. After all, it has to be because of the boiler brothers.
Diana claims she didn't write the notes, and she claims she didn't shoot the gun. But where's the hard proof she didn't do any of these things?
The answer lies in what destroyed the generator.
What?
Didn't we already talk about that?
All you guys did was discuss theories, never anything concrete. Settling for a theory isn't good enough when our lives are on the line. In the same way Ava can't rule out Diana's involvement in the case, we can't rule out the generators.
So, we
have to figure out what destroyed the generator? What should we do? Just throw out ideas?
It's what we've been doing this whole time.
All right, everyone. Let's put our thinking hats on. If we work together, we'll unravel this mystery for sure. Ready? On your marks, get set, go!
I have my theory.
Why did the generator blow up?
Could have just been an electrical fault.
So, a coincidence?
Is this the best situation? To be waving stuff off as a coincidence?
Did the killer throw something at the generator that made it explode?
Perhaps it's the fault of the taser gun? The electrical discharge it released might have connected with the generator and created an overabundance of energy, which caused everything in the circuit to pop.
Probably. There's no proof anything besides the taser was involved.
That's
In
not
that
true, Ava.
case, the generator blew up after Wolfie got shot with the taser.
Such a dastardly taser, leaving so many victims in its wake.
No, I'm looking long past the point of on Christopher total diversion. Reality is exploding just within us.
Why?
Is this the best situation? To be waving stuff off as a coincidence? Did the killer throw something at the generator that made it explode? Perhaps it's the fault of the taser gun? The electrical discharge it released
Might have connected
with the generator and created
an overabundance of energy, which caused everything in the circuit to pop.
Probably. There's no proof besides the taser was.
No, that's wrong!
Not true, Ava. Oh, man.
Unfortunately, Ava, I have to disagree. You say nothing but the taser could have been involved in the murder. But there's one possibility you didn't consider. The shrapnel in the wall.
You mean those bits of red metal which were floating around?
Right. The ones that look like the aftermath of an explosion. Due to their proximity to the generator, it's safe to assume the two are connected.
Can't that just be debris left by the generator?
Except this debris is a completely different color and lacks the rust the generator has accumulated. We're obviously looking at the remnants of something else, which means an object we haven't yet identified was caught in the explosion.
Floating near it was another out-of-place item. That would be the cord.
This is it.
In the water was also an extension cord, half of which had been burnt away.
Huh? Did the cord get caught in the explosion?
Seems that cord has the misfortune of floating around the wrong place at the wrong time.
From what I saw in my investigation, the building's extension cord supply seems to be kept inside Storage Closet D. So in a way, yeah, it was definitely in the wrong place.
Storage Closet D, huh? It was hard to make out much of it in the dark. And after the power came on, Kai came screaming for us to leave our closets. But I do recall seeing some extension cords peeking out from behind a shelf.
Since we already know the killer raided one storage closet, anyone else willing to bet they raided this one too?
The hell did they need an extension cord for?
Probably something involving the generator, given its proximity to the cord.
Same thing with the red bits, even though we don't know what they are.
Right, the red shrapnel. Definitely isn't debris left by a generator, so what exactly is it? So far, nothing in the boiler room can be directly tied to the shrapnel. At least not any of the clues that have already been discussed in this trial. I'm going to flip my thinking to the clues we haven't discussed yet. There's no proof that what I have in mind is related to the shrapnel, but when all the other options are ruled out, I can only turn to the one that hasn't. The one thing the mysterious shrapnel might be related to. Okay. The one thing... The odd smell? I have to think.
This is it.
Yes, okay.
Hold that thought. We may be able to identify the shrapnel using context clues. During the investigation, there was a strange smell permeating the boiler room. It took me a moment to notice, but when I did, well, The best way to describe the scent would be if you mix cereal and alcohol together.
Cereal and alcohol? Talk about specific.
Mm-hmm. 'Tis a sign a chemical reaction was at play.
Wait, you recognize the smell?
Chemical reactions can produce some pretty pungent odors. Usually something to the tune of alcohol mixed with cereal, or fruits, or eggs. I noticed the smell going into the investigation, but it had completely slipped my mind until now.
Could it be a chemical reaction was caused by the taser?
The gun never touched the water. There's no reason for it to be the source of the smell.
What about the generator?
Considering the state of it, that generator would smell more burnt than anything else.
If the chemical reaction can't be explained by what we already know, like the generator or the taser gun, we need to consider the possibility that the explanation is the one piece of evidence still evading us, the shrapnel.
Can someone translate this into less complicated talk?
It was just a long-winded way of saying he's using process of elimination.
I know it sounds like a stretch, but if you follow this line of reasoning, a lot more questions start getting answered. Think about it. If the smell and shrapnel are linked, then whatever object the shrapnel belongs to must contain chemicals.
So we're looking for a metal object, which is also packed with chemicals?
Surely something like that would be kept inside the pharmacy.
Looking at my notes... When we originally visited the pharmacy, I recorded everything I saw. A bright red metal object would have definitely caught my eye, but I don't see one written here.
I got lots of metallic objects in my dorm room, but nothing chemical. Just big old slabs of metal.
Slabs of metal. Why does that sound so familiar? That's right. I wonder what she said the night everyone began bunging together. With all sorts of fancy tools and metals. Time people were talking about their dorms being around their talents. Could it be? Could the shrapnel actually be the remnants of a unique device that guy boasted about having in his room? Anyone know for sure? Let's put you on the spot. Okay, no. Jet can't have killed the murderer, but it was definitely a car battery.
It has to be you!
Jet, I need to ask you something.
What's up?
Can you tell me what's inside your dorm room?
Like, a full-on list?
Whatever.
Sure thing. I got a pretty gnarly collection of parts and accessories. Blind spot mirrors, lithium batteries, wheels, spare brakes, you name it. Oh, I even have the legendary mantle from the 1984's Grand Prix winning Speedster.
That's what I was hoping to hear.
Cool. So, why'd you want to know? Unless... Wait, I'm not being suspected, am I? No. Don't try to roll me into this, bro. I've got nothing to do with the murder.
I know you don't. You have an alibi. The only reason I ask is because that mysterious red shrapnel may be the remnants of one of your lithium batteries.
Okay, thank God. Jet didn't do it. Hopefully that stays true. Because they also believe Diana did it a while ago, and now they don't, so... God.
What?
I see. A lithium battery might explain the smell in the air.
And lithium? That's an explosive substance.
I've been thinking for a while now, like, since the moment we found it, that it had to be a car battery, but it's never brought up, so I was like... I was worried Jet was going to be guilty, but okay. No, yeah, they're talking about it now. It seems like Jet isn't guilty from Damon's initial judgment.
If it made contact with water, gosh, you'd be left with a mess and a half.
Wouldn't someone have heard an explosion, though?
I did.
Really?
During the tournament. Right before we lost power.
Oi, that's right. There was a boom.
Wait! I remember hearing it too!
Who could have done this?
I initially assumed the generator made the noise somehow. But if Jet's car batteries contain an explosive substance...
A thought I don't like, but I have a thought.
Hey, Jet, were your batteries bright red at all?
Maybe?
You don't know for sure?
I never took the batteries out of their packaging. The packaging isn't red, I can tell you that, but the actual batteries? Yeah, I got nothing.
So it can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt?
Pretty much.
Well, what's the reaction time of a lithium battery?
The reaction time?
When a lithium battery hits the water, how long does it take to combust? I think, once we know that, we can decide whether or not the battery is relevant to the case.
A lithium battery would be an almost instantaneous reaction, I'm pretty sure.
She knows a lot about weapons and explosive. Like, let's just say that. Xion has a surprisingly vast knowledge set.
Lithium isn't a metal I've worked with, but it got beat into my head never to mix it with substances it doesn't like. All that electricity, the battery would have let out when it hit the water. It must have went straight into poor Wolfie.
There's warning labels on the battery for a reason.
Okay, if the reaction is instantaneous, then the battery would have entered the water only seconds before the generator exploded. That's really weird.
Is it?
According to Diana's testimony, when the explosion happened, she was still holding the taser gun. In which case, who threw the battery into the water?
Huh. Good point. We can rule out Wolfgang, since the Blackens can only be a student who kills another student. And Diana.
It was only Diana and Wolfgang in the boiler room, so unless Diana herself was the one to throw the battery, then the battery can't play a part in the murder.
I didn't throw the battery! I promise!
The shrapnel and generator are too close for comfort. They must be correlated. I'll admit that Diana throwing the battery is a possibility. That's all it is, a possibility. There may still be another way for the battery to enter the water. Until I ruled that out, I won't settle for a culprit just yet. Oh, this is so good. This is just the first goddamn mystery? The first goddamn
The battery
trial?
is related to the case. Only Diana could have thrown it in the water.
But my arm had been cut! Lifting a battery would hurt too much!
Neo batteries are pretty lightweight, though.
The battery clearly couldn't have fallen from somewhere, so it must have been submerged another way. Perhaps something akin to what Eva described?
If that battery is the murder weapon, why is there a taser gun?
Maybe it's a red herring.
Judging by the shrapnel, the battery would have landed in the water, a few inches from the generator.
Not the hardest shot to make.
Everybody's gonna say the battery was found, but when I consider the boiler room, which obviously Taylor could have leveraged, what that person considers impossible, so it's sounding big blood.
If the battery is related to the case, only Diana could have thrown it in the water.
But my arm had been cut! Lifting a battery would hurt too much!
Neo batteries are pretty lightweight, though.
The battery clearly couldn't have fallen.
Nope,
So
okay,
it must have been
Okay.
If the battery
is related to the case, only Diana could have thrown it in the water. But my arm had been cut! Lifting a battery would hurt too much! Neo batteries are pretty lightweight, though. The battery clearly couldn't have fallen. Perhaps something akin to what Eva described?
If that battery is the murder weapon, why is there a taser gun?
Maybe it's a red herring.
Judging by the shrapnel, the battery would have landed in the water, a few inches from the generator.
So maybe it is the only Diana comment.
Diana.
Come on. I know.
Damon. If the battery is related to the case, only Diana could have thrown it in the water.
But my arm had been cut! Lifting a battery would hurt too much!
Neo batteries are pretty...
Okay, so we have couldn't have fallen. So we have only Diana and couldn't have fallen.
Judging by the shrapnel, the battery would have landed in the water. A few inches from the
generator.
And a few inches. Nope, that's wrong anyway.
Not the
so
hardest shot
hit.
to make.
If the battery is related to the case, only Diana could have thrown it in the water.
But my arm had been cut! Lifting a battery would hurt too much!
Neo batteries are pretty lightweight, though.
The battery clearly couldn't have fallen from somewhere, so it must have been submerged another way.
So we've got the extension cord. black substance. Melted or become singed. Shrapnel from the car battery. Taser gun. Fitness metal.
Perhaps something akin to what Eva?
Judging by the shrapnel,
The battery would have landed in the water. A few inches from the generator.
Let's try this. No, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
the evidence.
If the battery is related to the case,
So,
only Diana gets the water. But my
Batteries are pretty lightweight, though.
The battery clearly couldn't have fallen.
okay, there we go.
No, that's wrong!
Alright, I was overthinking it. We're not there yet. We just need to prove that it couldn't have fallen in the first place, not what might have
No.
kept it from falling.
The battery might actually have fallen from the generator.
Yeah, okay.
What makes you say that?
The shrapnel's position in front of the generator suggests there's a correlation between the two. However, it's unlikely Diana threw the battery at the generator. Not only is the boiler room difficult to see in, the generator is positioned far enough from the concrete platform that Diana, with her wounded arm, would need to stand on the platform's edge to make the shot, which would obviously put her in danger of being attacked by Wolfgang again.
Yeah. Wolfgang was really close. He could reach over to me if he wanted.
If the battery hadn't been thrown, the only other possibility is that it fell down into the water. And considering the layout of the boiler room, what else could the battery fall off of? Except the generator.
Are you saying the battery was sitting on top of the generator?
On top, maybe. Suspended over the generator?
I got it.
Yes, okay.
The battery may have been suspended over the generator.
Suspended over.
The battery was suspended by something. The sense of that item starts to make a lot more sense. Okay, here we go. Extension cord. The pieces are coming into place.
This is it.
The killer could have tied the extension cord around the battery and slung the battery over the generator. If the cord and battery were tied together at the time of the generator's explosion, it would explain why half of the cord had been burned away.
The more you explain it, the more unbelievable it sounds.
What if that's the point? Maybe the killer chose a crazy method because no one would believe it.
I don't see how weaving a cord into the mix is any more beneficial than weaving it out. If anything, the cord adds extra weight.
Which would be especially inconvenient for Diana because her arm is bleeding.
Right. It wouldn't benefit Diana to hold the cord. So, what if she didn't? Something else may have been supporting the cord instead.
Something like... What's holding the cord? The object was holding the cord.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay, we're starting to piece everything
Throughout
together.
this trial, we've assumed the killer held the battery in some form or another. If the battery was on its own, the killer tossed it in. If the battery was wrapped with a cord, the killer held the other end of the cord. But in the same way something else can hold the battery, can't something else also hold the cord?
Ugh. My head's starting to spin.
Are you talking about something which could keep the cord in place?
So I'm gonna keep the cord in place. If I imagine the cord and the battery is tied around in front of the generator in the same spot where the shrapnel has surfaced. The same spot where the shrapnel has surfaced. This is it.
They managed to sling something open.
I guess it could work if you put the box on top of the generator.
Because that's not an eyesore.
Considering the generator's size, if there was, the
Going Damon. Okay. Hold on. What was the other end of the cord tied to? The bench?
This is it.
Okay, yeah. Time to close the plate here.
Tied the cord to the vent. The one above the generator. It connects the boiler room and the dining hall.
There's a vent above the generator?
You should remember some light shining into the boiler room. That's where the vent is. The vent itself is set a bit far back into the wall. So, you probably assumed the spot was a small window or something.
If the boiler room and the dining hall are separated by one vent, does this make the wallpaper thin, or...?
There's two vents. The boiler room vent and the dining hall vent. Both are connected via a small ventilation shaft.
Oh, shit. I see it now. I see it. I get it. Holy shit.
I was able to get a close look at the boiler room vent after Ava and I woke up, which is why I know these details.
How close is close for someone under 6 foot?
Ava helped me reach the vent.
By?
Letting me sit on her shoulders.
Quite the visual.
Don't worry about that.
Anyway, if the killer tied one end of the cord to the vent and the other end around the battery, they could suspend the battery over the generator.
Something like that would result in an explosion.
What do you mean?
You say the killer tied one end of the cord to the vent and the other end to the battery. However, indoor extension cords are much longer than regular cords. They can be upwards of 9 or more meters in length, as opposed to the average cord's 2 meters. 9 meters is significantly longer than the distance between the vent and the boiler room floor. If the killer wanted to tie the battery to the cord's other end, they would be tying it to something which is already submerged in water.
I see. It is an impossible setup.
Not necessarily. I feel like I'm really using the cord, but it's that.
I got
battery? Yes, okay. Yeah. Seems to be obvious.
The extension cord is pretty thin and flimsy. If the killer wanted the battery to be secure, they need to wrap a lot of cord around it. Probably to the point there wouldn't be much spare cord remaining. Which is a good thing, because this spare cord is what the battery will be suspended by. So long as the spare cord isn't too long, the battery will sit safely above the water.
So much effort.
Agreed. How do you even submerge the battery into the water under those circumstances?
How? Simple. By adjusting the cord's position. All the killer will need to do is utilize a certain aspect of the boiler room. A certain aspect of the boiler room. Okay. Adjust the cord's position. Wouldn't it? Would it not just... Cord is tied to the generator. Vent?
This is it.
Yes, okay. Just move the vent.
Like I mentioned earlier, I gave the vent a close look after originally waking up in the boiler room. Part of my inspection included opening the vent to get a better look at the other side.
The vent can be opened?
Not all the way, but far enough for the vent to cause a domino effect if then closed. In our case, the domino effect involving the extension cord tied to it. If we assume the vent must be open for the battery to remain a safe distance above the water, we end up with a pulley system. To prevent the battery from entering the water, the vent is literally pulling the entire cord backwards. Ergo, it's not just the killer's own measurements keeping the battery in place, but the vent itself. Having opened one of these vents before, I can tell you how tough they are to move.
Wrapped my fingers around the grate directly in front of me, I just pulled as hard as I could.
A lightweight battery definitely isn't heavy enough to pull one shut. It takes an actual person to close one, which is great for the killer, because it means they get to maintain full control over when the battery enters the water.
Huh.
If they close the vent, the cord should slide forward and submerge the battery into the water. When that happens, the boiler room water becomes electrified by the battery's components, which in turn causes electricity to pass directly into the body of Wolfgang, who is standing in the water.
Exactly which vent is the cord being tied to?
the boiler room vent.
Funny. Earlier, you said there's a small vent shaft connecting the boiler room vent to the dining hall vent. Assuming the killer is operating this trap from outside the boiler room, since we know there were only ever 2 people in that room, how would they even be able to reach the boiler room vent? Like you said, there's a separate vent in front of it.
She has a point. I'm assuming the cord is tied to the boiler room vent. But I feel like it's in the ventilation shaft. It's really hard to reach the boiler room vent if you have to reach down the shaft first. Not just that, I don't have to see the boiler room vent to open inwards. I really got to open outwards. By that logic, it vents on the opposite side of the shaft.
This could only mean one thing. The killer never tied the cord to the boiler room vent. They tied the cord to the dining hall vent.
It was one of us!
That just creates the same problem as before, but reversed. Instead of the dining hall vent making it hard to close the boiler room vent, it's the boiler room vent making it hard to reach the dining hall vent.
While the vents may seem like an obstruction, especially since they can't be opened all the way, there's a very easy workaround. All the killer needs to do is fit the extension cord between the grates of the boiler room vent.
Oh yeah, the grates. You mentioned something about them earlier. Right. When you described opening the boiler room vent.
My fingers are on the grates up in front of me, I pulled the cards like that.
If you can fit your fingers between the grates, there's no damn way you can't fit a cord.
Exactly. After which, you could slide the cord through the ventilation shaft and out the opposite end for the killer to then go and tie to the...
Actually...
Did he just actually me?
Hello?
Hi, Will. Hi, Ulysses.
What is it now?
There's something I still don't understand about your theory. It's to do with the logistics of the cord.
The logistics?
Its size.
We're back to discussing this again? Never mind, we'll find a way to combat his argument we have done it countless times already. Okay.
I understand the boiler room vent can be opened. Maybe not all the way, but enough to fit an extension cord through. What's bothering me, however, is that the boiler room vent was closed during the investigation, which means it must have been closed during the murder.
I don't see a problem here. The killer doesn't even need to open that vent, because they could simply slide the cord between the grates.
Indoor extension cords may be thin, but the plugs on either side of them aren't. How can the killer fit both those plugs between the gaps in the vent grate? Either the boiler room vent was never involved, or it was open at some point, and someone else closed it. That is my issue.
Sorry, might have to be said to remember one fatal flaw.
Indoor extension cords may be thin, but the plugs on either side of them aren't.
I'll cut through those words!
Alright, yeah. I figured that was probably it.
If you insert the cord through the boiler room vent first, it's possible to fit the cord through. You just need to start with the internal plug. The cords in Storage Closet D have a slim internal end. This can easily be slid through the gaps in the vent. Once the killer ties the cord around the dining hall vent, presumably with a knot, the cord won't be at risk of sliding back out either.
I see. When put like that, whether or not the boiler room vent was closed isn't really relevant.
How'd you figure all this out from some shrapnel and an extension cord? This is crazy.
At the same time, what he's describing sounds plausible.
Since the battery was suspended over the generator, it's no surprise the machine ended up the way it did. Fortunately for Diana, she was safe by virtue of remaining on the platform. I imagine that was also the killer's intention.
The killer kept her on the platform?
They must have known they were injecting Wolfgang with a hallucinogenic. So, It's possible they hoped his behavior would scare Diana off from entering the water.
Yeah, I think I know who did it.
Although, even if Diana did die, the moment people realized only she and Wolfgang entered the boiler room, they'd probably call the whole thing a murder gone wrong.
Well, all of this certainly changes things.
Huh?
If the killer is someone who needed access to the vent, and needed to be operating from the dining hall, then everyone who attended the tournament is a suspect.
What?
No way!
One of the tournament attendees is the killer. How did not realize sooner? The fact that the killer came access to the event means he must have been dining hall the time will be.
So we can reduce it down to 8 people. Damon, Kai, Grace, Eva, Cassidy, Jed, Mark, and John.
It was probably Cassidy. She set the whole thing up.
Hey, I was only trying to improve the mood.
It wasn't me. I was playing a game with Damon when the lights went out.
I had to play music.
Me too.
You never touched my equipment.
I meant I was watching Kai and Damon play.
I was spectating as well.
Me too.
Me 3! And Cass 2, I think? I was too focused on the game to remember who was or wasn't there.
If everyone's telling the truth, then all 8 of y'all were crowded round the same spot?
Near the right wall where the TV was set up. It's also the furthest wall from the vent.
Seems like someone is lying again.
Tournament participant who flipped the vent. You can deduce who that person is by determining everyone's positions are before the blackout. Problem is, I myself have been totally preoccupied with the game. Never got a good look at the actual people around me. Never got a good look. Is that it? Never got a good look at the others. I can still deduce the general positions if they were there, but whether or not I heard them. I can't think. Who and what did I hear back then? It was you. The only person I never heard is you. I don't remember, so I'm going to go off the gut feeling.
It has to be you!
Yup. I knew it! I knew it! Who is the only other person who has the most reason to want Wolfgang dead? Who is the only person in this goddamn room who spends a lot of time down in the boiler room, who wants Wolfgang dead? Oh, who would want Wolfgang dead at least? And who wouldn't want Diana to get hurt? But would still have access to Diana and know when to send her down there as bait. Oh.
The killer is Ava.
Huh?
Ava's the only one whose position I can't account for. Mark was mixing a track at the time Kai and I were playing a game, so I know he must have been stationed at his pad. And everyone else? I remember hearing their voices over the sound of the game. Everyone. Except Ava. In fact, last I saw her, she was standing in the corner of the room with the vent.
She was. Fuck.
So Ava flipped the vent?
Oh man! And the reason no one heard it is because the music was too loud!
Don't blame me. I was just doing what I was told.
No one's blaming you. We're all in on Eva.
Care to contribute anything, Eva?
I didn't flip the vent.
Well, Damon says you did.
Damon says a lot of things.
While you aren't technically wrong, I don't think that counts as an argument.
Holy shit.
His theory is full of plot holes. He just refuses to point them out.
What plot holes?
The cord.
What?
In retrospect, you were so quick to accuse me that you overlooked a huge problem with the cord. If I'm the killer, how did I dispose of it?
Trick question. You left the cord tied to the vent.
What then? It unraveled by itself and fell into the water?
Yeah, you got me there.
How do you get rid of the cord? Sure it's possible. You need to untie it at the right time. No, it had to be before the blackout, whenever we left.
You waiting for everyone to leave the dine?
I went with you guys.
Oh, whoops. We'll continue. still turn this debate around. Okay, so before the blackout.
You untied the cord.
Someone would have.
Okay, but
I got it.
To dispose of the cord, you just untied it during the blackout.
oh, because the cord only has to be disposed separately from the bottom one off. It doesn't have to be at the same time.
She untied the knot during a blackout?
Being the one who set up the trap, Ava could have easily practiced untying the knot in advance. Or she just made it a really simple knot. Either way, it wouldn't be any more difficult than untying your shoelaces with your eyes closed.
If Ava untied the cord, did it also fall into the water?
Diana's testimony says as much.
It does?
During your confrontation with Wolfgang, you recounted hearing certain sounds.
I'll never be like you. I won't give up until the world knows I won't give up. Until I'm known as... Boom. All of a sudden everything turned white. Everything from me except Wolfgang, those who sing seem to be pitch black. And then suddenly everything else. Flop.
The first sound was obviously the battery exploding. And the second, when you first recounted the story, you said it was a sound of the knife hitting the water. But why would a thin knife make such a big splash?
Then, do you think...
What really caused that sound was probably the extension cord falling into the water.
When you say it that way, it does seem likelier.
I should have known. The kid who lied about her talents and tried to lie about the Tozy trinkets. I should have known. I should have known only Eva fucking Sadaka would kill Wolfgang!
You're right that Eva's lied to us several times already.
But she's just a mathlete. How did someone like her come up with something this complicated?
Her talent would give her the upper hand in all that measurement nonsense.
Even so, she's been under heavy suspicion these past few days. How did she sneak into Jet and Desmond's rooms without being noticed?
It's impossible. Wolfgang even got mad at me for being late to the dining hall by a few minutes. I've been watched the entire time I've been here. There's no way Jet wouldn't have noticed me taking his battery.
Right on. No one steals from me.
They already did.
And anyway, how could I enter the cord through the boiler room vent when I can't even reach the top of the generator? If anything, you should be suspicious of the taller students.
I understand why people are doubtful, but I can't let the conversation be like this. Ava did in fact go into that and all she had to use. That was time for the boxes.
Ava grabbed one of the boxes on the concrete platform and placed it next to the generator.
That's setting myself up. Removing a box would reduce the amounts of boxes.
Flexing your mathematical prowess, I see.
Sorry, I keep accidentally skipping dialogue. I'm so sorry.
I'm saying Damon would have noticed if a box was missing, since there's so few of them to start with. But he never noticed anything, because there were just as many boxes as there were last time.
Couldn't you just move the box back after using it?
Then the underside of the box would be wet, which it wasn't.
This I can confirm. My notes on the box's exteriors mention nothing about watermarks.
Thinking. Okay. Oh, there's boxes already in the water.
This is it.
Yeah.
Ava, to reach the top of the generator, you simply stood on one of the boxes in the boiler room. There's already a huge pile of them near the generator itself. You could easily push one up against the machine.
Ah. She would have known about those boxes in advance, too. Since she explored the boiler room with you ahead of time.
Okay, I could have used the boxes to reach the top of the generator, and I could have fit the cord through both vents if I inserted the right plug. I can do both of those things without attracting suspicion. What I can't do without attracting suspicion is opening the vent.
Eh?
Which vent are we talking about?
The dining hall one. Based on what Damon's saying, it needs to be opened for the killer's trap to work. But opening it during the tournament is asking to be caught, and opening it before the tournament is useless because Jet, Cassidy, and Mark would see it while setting up.
Oh yeah, you're right. If there was an open vent with a cord tied to it, I would have noticed for sure.
Now that Eva mentions it, I'm pretty sure the vent was closed during setup.
The vent was closed.
See, there's no way I can execute this trap without being caught. It's a stupid trap anyway. All the cord and vent stuff is too complicated. There's a billion ways it could go wrong. Damon's just making stuff up. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
What the? That's bullshit.
Can it, you four-eyed troll? You can't talk your way out of this one.
Shit.
The only person who would be sick-minded enough to kill Wolfgang is you, and only you! Don't you fucking try and tell me otherwise!
You can't say I'm the murderer just because I sat near a vent.
It seems to be pretty good evidence to me.
Wolfgang exposed you for the snake you are, and you despised him because of it. You have a motive!
Perhaps our understanding of the mechanism is wrong? Maybe it wasn't closing the vent that triggered it, but something else?
Do you have any evidence to prove that?
Even if this trap was used, you can't guarantee it operated the way Damon described.
How so?
Well, the battery could have been tied to the extension cord, with a special knot which can untie by itself. After a bit of time passes.
There's even less evidence for that!
Evidence? No one here cares about evidence. I just happened to be at the game tournament, and now you're saying I'm a killer.
Like what we said before, focus on the facts, I just need to focus.
You can't say I'm the murderer just because I sat near a vent.
Okay, hold on. Alright, so... let's let the luck on the outside. Attended by 8 people. Of those 86 competing in the tournament, Kai, Jet, Cassie, John, Grace. Ava, Dickinson, Mark, and Norma.
It seems to be pretty good evidence to me.
Wolfgang exposed you for the snake you are, and you despised him because of it. You have a motive!
No, that's wrong! Happen to be there. You didn't even play the tournament.
No. It's no coincidence you were at the game tournament. In fact, it's not even a coincidence the tournament took place during the murder.
What do you mean?
It was impossible for me to notice this earlier. But the killer timed the tournament so it would grant them an alibi for the murder.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Are you accusing me of murder again? I thought you said Ava was the culprit.
The detective isn't supposed to switch suspects in the last stretch like this. We're totally throwing the audience for a loop, and not in a good way.
Except neither of you played a role in determining what time the tournament would be held. The only person to determine that was Ava.
That's right. Ava was the one who said to do it at 9. I was training my talent in most of my studying at 9 a.m. Brain is most active and ready to absorb information around that time. Having this effect can help our video game skills. 9 a.m. tourney, huh? Wouldn't be the first time. Screw it, let's do 9 a.m., 1 hour after the morning announcement.
Ava knew she would be in the dining hall tomorrow. So when Cassidy announced the tournament, she realized it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create an alibi for herself.
Holy shit.
That's insane. How could she have come up with something like that on the spot?
It wasn't just for an alibi either. Since Ava knew about the tournament, she could time the setup of her trap accordingly.
So to answer a question of why neither Cassie, Jet, nor Mark knows the open event, I think back to what Cassie told me earlier today before the tournament began, which was exactly when Ava opened the event. After stacking the furniture.
I got it.
Yeah, because the furniture was blocking the vent.
Cassidy, you told me Ava approached you yesterday and asked to help set up the tournament. What exactly did she say?
When did I tell you this again?
before the tournament?
Oh, now I remember. Yeah, Eva wanted to see what sort of equipment the tournament needed. After I showed her Mark stuff and told her we were redecorating the dining hall, she offered to help.
Back when this conversation happened, you still hadn't decided what time you were going to start redecorating, right?
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. Eva really helped me out, though. She said she would stack the dining hall furniture we weren't going to use later that night. Afterwards, we could focus purely on arranging the technical stuff in the morning.
All right. Then tell me what happened last night.
Jet, Mark, Eva, and I came to the dining hall at around 8:40 p.m. probably. We stacked the table and the dining chairs against the left wall, and the sofas we moved to the middle of the room, maybe a little more to the right. Then we all went back to our dorms. Well, I was kind of hungry, so I stayed back a few minutes before leaving.
Hold the phone! If those sofa chairs were moved to the middle of the room, why'd I see one over in the corner this morning?
'Cause Eva pushed it there.
Eva what?
She didn't want to take part in the tournament. Just watch it from the side. That's what she told me.
Oh, Cassidy's voice actress is really good at doing these, like, impressions.
I never thought it was weird or anything. Some people just like sticking to the walls of rooms, you know?
We're talking about the sofa in the upper left corner, aye? The one next to the coffee table.
Yes, sirree, Bob.
Yo, when the power went out, I'm pretty sure Damon ran over to that corner to look through. Yeah, a vent!
Did she move the chair there so it would be easier to reach the vent later?
Oh, man.
Why would I when Cassidy just said the vent was closed during setup?
Because you were covering for yourself in advance.
Huh?
The vent may not have been open at the time, but I'm willing to bet that's because you were still creating your trap.
In what way?
Let's say Ava took a detour for the boiler room first, and slid the internal plug through both vents, after going upstairs and helping rearrange the dining hall furniture, during which she moves a sofa chair so it obscures the vent. She heads outside and hides until everyone else goes to bed. Then, she walks back in and opens the vent.
So Eva took complete advantage of them?
Not my fault those two are so trusting.
You think a big guy like me was gonna be afraid of some mathlete? No way!
I mean, she did lie about a lot of important things. Her talent being one of them.
Oh, man.
She also cried and fled the scene after we found out, no?
I just thought it was cool. She wanted to help me out.
Hey, can we backtrack a little? Like, to before all this Ava talk?
Why? What happened?
It's to do with the chair's position.
Chair.
You guys keep saying it was in front of the vent, but Damon stood in front of the vent during the blackout. If the chair was in the position you all say it was, it should have blocked him from crouching in front of the vent.
Ava probably just moved it during the blackout.
Eh?
Before the blackout, it was positioned with its back to the left wall. However, when I ran over to the vent, the chair was suddenly pushed up against the northern wall, out of the vent's range.
Man.
Ava must have shifted the chair while everyone was initially panicking from the blackout. I'm guessing she hoped people would misremember its position and think it was always along the northern wall.
Oh, man! So I totally fell for it?
I also remember seeing a speaker in that corner.
Yeah, about that. This morning, Jet, Mark, and I arrived at the dining hall a little after 8 a.m., then Eva came a few minutes later. She helped us put together Mark's equipment, which was stationed in the lower right corner of the room. And then she volunteered to place speakers around the room while Jet and I set up the TV next to the fireplace.
Moving a speaker near the vent. Did Eva do that to drown out Diana and Wolfgang's scuffle?
Yeah, and in turn exacerbate the effects of the other speakers.
Oh, Jesus.
There were almost a dozen spread throughout the dining hall. Some even sandwiched into corners they didn't need to be. Ava probably placed them that way to cover as much ground as possible.
Still, Eva entered the dining hall at 8:10 a.m., right? So, wouldn't it be impossible for her to knock out Lawyer Man at 8:15 a.m.?
According to Ava, she arrived around 8:10 a.m. But it's possible she actually arrived much later. Since there's no clock in the dining hall, he just couldn't have known. In fact, that might be why Ava seemed so eager to arrange Mark's equipment in the morning. Upon realizing it had a clock, she wanted to ensure it would only be powered on after she arrived.
It seems the setup of this trap occurred across 3 phases. Phase 1 took place in the boiler room and involved tying a lithium battery to an extension cord. The cord was then slid through the grates of the closed boiler room vent, presumably until it almost poked out the other end of the ventilation shaft. Phase 2, by contrast, was carried out in the dining hall. The aforementioned cord was tied around the dining hall vent, which was then left open. This must have happened after Cassidy, Mark, and Jet were already done redecorating. For the third and final phase, the battery was carefully suspended over the generator.
Okay, alright. Okay, I was worried that they weren't gonna bring this up. I was like, if it is already like suspended, then she tied it to the other generator, how did you not electrocute herself? But okay, yeah, so this was taking place after.
All these steps combined created a pulley system, which could only be triggered by closing the dining hall vent. Is there anything I'm missing?
How I closed the vent.
Huh?
No one has explained how I closed the dining hall vent. Obviously, I didn't do it during the blackout. According to Damon, the blackout can only happen after the vent is closed. So, I must have stood up, gone behind the chair, and closed the vent during the tournament. That's stupid. Someone is definitely going to notice that sort of conspicuous movement. It doesn't matter if that someone is on the opposite side of the room. They're going to notice.
How did we overlook such an obvious discrepancy?
He was right. Standing up would look really suspicious, which is exactly why she used that to circumvent the problem. Okay. Wait, hold on.
I don't know why you're pointing.
Okay, so not. I'm trying to point out the fact that it could be bad.
This is it.
Okay, so yeah, she just sat down.
The location of your chair bypasses this problem entirely. Towards the vent, all you need to do is set the chair to recline and reach behind you.
Set the chair to recline?
All the dining hall chairs have the ability to recline. Some were already set to that position at the start of the tournament, including Ava's. With her chair in recline, Ava can easily reach down and close the vent without shifting from her position. It's not perfectly inconspicuous, but it's subtle enough to not catch most people's attention, especially those focused on watching a video game competition.
Yeah. It's loud, you're all distracted.
Well, am I wrong?
Oh, man. Oh, this episode went really long. I got very distracted. Apologies. We will end this episode. And next episode, we will finally finish off this trial.